David, you're wow, what a memory, and take us back and to those years with my Uncle Bob. And so you were going up there. You had 2 years on staff. You came back as a guest 2 years later. Knew my Uncle Bob and walked with him. Protecting camp from a terrorist, basically.
Yeah.
Um, and for as interesting as all of that is, you have mentioned a couple times here that you sit in a wheelchair, and I guess no other way to really ask it, but can you explain why that is and what happened, and then what happened afterwards? And you came to
Sure.
camp, and I'm sure you've shared this hundreds of times, but I got to be honest, my parents have shared it with me, and how they really thought you were such a special person. They knew you before you were in the wheelchair, but I don't know the details of it. And
Okay.
we had a conversation um, about 6 months ago by phone, and I for whatever reason we stopped there because I knew we were going to speak again, and Tom and I were doing this, and I just felt like um, I wanted to hear it, but I also wanted to share it, and I'm just going to kind of
Okay.
let you run with it there.
Okay. Um, the end of 1979, I was 25 and a half, and it was the New Year's holiday coming up, and I was working for Xerox at the time and living in Arlington, Virginia, and went down. I was on weekends, I was running sound in Richmond, Virginia for a rock band. Um, that's my other kind of like weird IT tech kind of tie into life is I still run soundboard at church and I've always done sound. Um, so I'd be down there and visiting a good buddy of mine that I had coached. I used to coach a high school rowing team, and he was down in Richmond going to school, and so I'd gone down there, and we were going to go out to eat supper. Um, Contrary to like some people believe, like there were some really funky stories about like what transpired and why I was where I was, but I was stone cold sober. It was 6:47 p.m. We were going to change clothes and go out to eat. And so we went to the band's apartment because that's where my clothes were. And the door was locked and nobody answered the door. And my friend John, that was my best friend, said, "Well, let's just pop out on the roof and we can climb in the window to the where the studio is." And for a number of reasons, height never bothered me. I used to springboard dive and competitively. Then I took up like rock quarries and waterfalls like Christine Falls, which I'm sure you've been to. Um, Now, some of the waterfalls and stuff. And then I took up skydiving. Um, so height didn't bother me. I knew the guys, it was just a flat metal roof that was out that window, and they used to just put their lounge chairs out there in the summer. So I had no perception of danger whatsoever, which is a bad place to be. So John tried to open the window and he couldn't get the window open. It was either locked or it was just stuck. And I said, I'll try the other window. And what I didn't know is on this apartment building, on the street side, the building was one floor higher than it was on the back side. And so I walked over to the other window. And the thing I didn't know was um, I don't know, every other like section or whatever, the alley actually came up to the higher section. And the window I was walking to was over that gap. And it was dark. It was December 31st and after 6 o'clock. So it was dark. There was no light sources. So nothing gave me any clue, and I stepped into space and did three somersaults, screamed John three times on the way down, and four floors later, I landed on my back on cement and exploded about six or seven of my vertebrae. The doctor said that, like, I mean, a vertebrae is about like this high, about that big. And he said that five of those vertebrae were in 20 to 25 pieces, had just exploded, and actually had rotated also 180 degrees when they went in to do my surgery to put me back together again. I never lost consciousness. Um, it was not painful. The brain, you read these stories about people in a war zone that step on a landmine and lose 8 inches, their foot and 8 inches of their leg, and then they walk out on that, and you think, how can that be? And the brain can only deal with a certain amount of pain. That amount it can deal with is still excruciating, but when you pass a certain amount, the brain just blocks it out. So it was like getting hit in the back with a giant pillow. Um, and John had to go down the stairs all the way around the building to get to me. Sorry, got rid of that. Um,
Okay.
and By the time he got to me, he was sobbing uncontrollably. This was before cell phones. This was before 911. So he had to leave me there. And go find a payphone, and then he had to look up ambulance. And he told me, like, literally 20 years. I was best man in his wedding a few years after this, and he told me, like, 20 years later, like, I never told you, like, I'm looking through the yellow pages and I can't remember, how do you spell ambulance. And it's like,
Yeah.
but that's what you used to do back then. You found a payphone, you called an ambulance. um
Mm.
I tried. Sorry.
No, do what you got to do.
i'm hoping my I'm hoping my wife picks it up.
Yeah, whatever, David. Yeah, we can. We're here for this. Whatever you need to attend to.
Maybe look at the idea and call her cell phone. Um, anyway, yeah, so I never, I was a Christian. I mean, I had been a Christian since I was not quite single digits, but not long after turning 10. And I tried bargaining. Um, God was not bargaining. It may sound really strange. It was literally probably the most peaceful moment of my life. And I never was alone. I literally was never alone. I'm not saying that I did not see any apparitions of Jesus standing there with me, but I could feel him.
Sure.
Um, I was alone for a fair amount of time while John, and the thing that ended up pretty close to killing me was stopping suddenly like that. The bottom three ribs on my right side had exploded into my lung, and I was basically drowning in my own fluids. That lung collapsed, and so I'm laying there just simply trying to breathe. And that's all. Just trying to breathe and having a actually really great conversation with Jesus. Um, and there's no doubt whatsoever in my mind that God sustained me through this, that it wasn't my power, it wasn't anything else. It was he sustained me through this. Um, so the ambulance finally did show up, and they lost me once on the way to the hospital. And for me, the bizarre part was, like, I never lost consciousness through that either. I kind of had an out of body experience, and I was above the ambulance looking down at me. And if you're gonna mess up this bad, you want to do it in a city that has a pretty rough crime picture, because they have an awesome shock trauma center.
Yeah.
And those little rooms that they put you in the ER. I was in a room that was like 20 by 30 feet, and there's one table in the center. And I mean, just you know, I was clear-headed. Like I said, there was no drugs or alcohol in my system, so I was very clear-headed. I didn't say anything stupid like, "Gee, I wish I was dead." I knew instantly I was paralyzed. I could definitely tell that, like, I wasn't feeling my legs. And so you don't say something stupid like, well, if I'm going to be paralyzed, like I don't want to be here, because you don't really know how this is going yet. So I know it. I know it really. I'm sure it scared my mom because 2 years before my accident, I was in Norfolk and teammate on the soccer team at I went to Old Dominion University. Um, Fell off of a balcony at a party and was paralyzed. And I had told my mother, and I think most athletes, if you really think, most athletes will say like, I can't deal with that. Um, One thing I learned with this is don't predict what you can and cannot deal with. Because I told my mother 2 years before my accident, if that ever happens to me, put me in a box because I don't want to be here. And yet, when confronted with it, that was never even a glimmer of a thought. So,
Wow.
so fortunately, I was in really good shape. I had run a 10K 2 weeks before this in DC and won it. And so my resting heart rate was like 40 beats a minute. And all night long, that first night in the ICU, I kept because they set a top and a bottom alarm on your heart monitor. The top is just if it goes into fibrillation, and then it's basically just spasming and not really pumping blood. But they set a bottom limit, and all night long they had to keep moving the alarm limit down. And by the next morning, my heart rate was like 55, and they're like, people usually don't go under 100 for like 3 weeks. Um, so, but that, the benefit there was they could do surgery on me much faster. So that helped with like making sure there was no pneumonia or anything. Because when you have a collapsed lung, that's one of the things that with a collapsed lung that you worry about is it will seal off and you'll get, bacteria below there and that'll go into pneumonia. So,
Wow.
but
David,
it,
that is hard to hear. I'm sure it's hard to speak about
not
as
really. I've
okay.
done, yeah, I've done, it's
I'll
not,
attempt
it's
hard to
not like
hear.
it can hurt me. I've done it a lot.
Yeah.
So that was New Year's Eve, what year?
79 into 80.
79 and 80.
Yep. So the January 1st of 80, I was in a hospital.
Mm.
For how
And it
long?
actually took me a while before was, I think I must like self-abuse because I decided I was going to go to Camp of the Woods, which may be one of the 10 worst places to go. Maybe the Acropolis or something in Greece might be worse, but
Why is that? So you're saying in the summer of 80,
I
so
didn't go
six
there.
months 6 months later you went to camp
No,
and
no, I didn't go for a couple of years.
a couple of years.
It
Okay.
took me a few years before I
I would think I
I
was
was
going to
up
say
for that. Yeah, I got out of the hospital. Well, the first hospital I was in for, I think, 28 days. Then I was in intermediate rehab at UVA I was supposed to be there 2 months or 3 months, and I was there 3 weeks. And then I went to advanced rehab over by Staunton, um, which, if you're not from Virginia, would call it Stanton.
Yeah.
Um, and he's laughing. Um, and I was supposed to be there 9 months, and I was there nine. It was extremely important for my mental state to be
That's
like stellar. And
that's like
so
Charlottesville area, right? That's
yeah, it's west of Charlottesville. Yeah, it's right off of 66 there. So I was there for 9 weeks. So I fully got out of I got out of any institution by I think it was by the end of May. And then I returned to work full time in September. Um, and then I don't can't remember what year it was that I finally decided I was going to try and go to camp. But yeah,
you have to convince your family, or did they convince you? Or well, let me take a step back. In the year that it happened, you said that you knew instantly that you were paralyzed. Was there a time during recovery where you thought maybe I'm not, or
No,
no?
no, I realized, um, I think one of the hard things, the teammate that I was with when he had his accident and he only fell like 12 feet and he landed on his stomach on grass and he didn't actually structurally break anything. He just bruised his spinal column. And like everything else in your body, when you bruise it, it swells. It's swelling inside of a bony tunnel, so it cuts off its own circulation and the tissue dies. And I know he really struggled with that because he didn't struggle to survive, I guess is part of it. Um, since my journey started off was just struggling to breathe, I was thankful for everything possible that I got. I I saw the x-rays. I knew how much damage I had done. Um, and the reason I say that, like I knew I was paralyzed, like you guys don't realize, like when you if you put your hand on your knee, you're feeling it twice. Your hand is feeling your knee and your knee is feeling your hand. Okay. If you put your hand on the desk, you're feeling the desk and you're not getting any feedback.
Yeah.
And that was the, the early sensation while John was off getting the ambulance was like my thought of like, what's this really squishy part over here? And it's like, oh, that's your thigh, but you're not feeling it back.
Yeah. Yep.
You're only feeling it with your hands. Um, so
So
that's why, and I didn't I didn't I was never in denial. How's that? That's a good way to put it. I've met people in rehab and stuff that were like, "Oh, I'm gonna walk again." And you just denied, like you said, you deny that you're paralyzed.
Mhm.
Um, for me, it was extremely evident, like what things I could no longer do. I didn't need to dwell on them. And a lot of people spend all their time after something like this dwelling on the things they've lost, the things they can no longer do. And I chose, like I said, I didn't deny. I never said like I'm going to be running on the beach next year at camp. Um, but I chose to just constantly try and think of things I could, in my mind, I could still do.
yeah, I
And
have a bunch of questions here.
uh-huh.
Yeah.
First one, it sounds like you're saying that God gave you special grace to be able to deal with this in the moment, and I'm expecting that that's something that's continued.
Yep.
And so I'm just trying to think of anybody who's experienced tragedy, right? This was 45, almost 46 years ago for you now.
Yep.
That's a long time. So you've had time to reflect on this, but that impact has been for 45, almost 46 years.
Yeah.
What would you tell somebody who is currently in tragedy and trying to cope?
For one thing, like I said, you have no idea what you actually can deal with. Um, you know, um, we conceptualize and we think like we know what it is, but you really don't know. Um, the other thing is there's nothing that says you have to do it alone.
Hmm.
If you have faith, we all understand the scripture, I can do all things through Christ. We get that, but that's real. That's not just, some people that don't have faith will look at that and say, "Oh, that's a great platitude," like, "Oh, great, just throw that out there." And it's not.
Yeah.
Because when you turn your face to him and you call out, he never forsakes you. He tells you he won't forsake you. And so I was never in it alone. Are there frustrations? Absolutely. There's an endless number of things that can become just very frustrating. But do you let that rule your world? When it comes to things you can't do, it's like, are either of you runners?
Long time ago, I did some
Okay,
running.
but if I said to you, like, like, well, Don, you're probably not going to run a marathon again. You'd be like, you got that right.
Right.
human nature, like, oh, I can't believe I can't run. Well, you know what? Since being in a wheelchair, I've done 3 marathons.
Oh, wow.
You
Okay.
know, I always wanted to run a marathon, but being a soccer player, running distance is not a happy place for most soccer players because your ankles are so beat up and your knees are so beat up that you get any distance into that and you go like, no, I'll be sitting over here. Um,
So, um, amazing. So you were very athletic. You kept yourself in shape prior to this. One of the things that my parents remember about you is that when you did come back to camp, you were in the wheelchair,
mhm.
but you were not the typical person bound to a wheelchair. You were your upper body, you were able to move around as more than anyone they could ever imagine anyone else moving around in a wheelchair doing things that like what do you remember about that? Like
Well, I think when I came back to Camp of the Woods, my mom and dad brought the ski boat up and I towed my Hobie 16 up. So I love boats. I love boating. I love sailing. And like a hard fiberglass deck would be a disaster for anybody that's in a wheelchair because the part you're sitting on all day long, 18 hours or more a day, would not cope with that. So I had figured out like that trampoline on a Hobie is like, yeah, I can do that. So I bought a Hobie Cat because I'm crazy. And I'm also an adrenaline junkie a little bit. And so I came up, and that's probably what caught their eye too. I came up with the Hobie Cat and um, it's called a sit ski. So I think I sent you one of the pictures.
We
Uh,
have that. Yeah, we'll
of,
show that.
yeah, please do. And Tom,
Yeah.
while you do this, I'm gonna pay a tribute to my friend Tom Orser here. That of all my friends, this is such a hypothetical, but any of my friends that I thought might should something like this have happened to you, you would have also had the same mindset and drive and adrenaline and to try to do what David did. I love a lot of friends that I have, but I would not put many of them or any in the category to equate them with David as I would with you, Tom.
Well, I want to tell you, I have thought before we even met you, David. I have thought about this extensively, just because I like to keep active, and I've thought, what if that were something that was taken away?
mhm,
And e- two parts, Don. One, I don't know that I would have the maturity to take on life the way David has. I'm a little more angry at my core, probably, to deal with it. There'd be some anger issues to deal with. I do want to think, though, that there is, like, I want to be described as someone who has joy of life, right? The
yeah,
French joie de vivre. That's what David is describing, and I think it's at the fountain of the Holy Spirit giving him that. And
mhm,
so that is ideally what how I would react to something like David's gone through. I, I don't know that I'd be there right away. I think there'd be a time period of adjustment for sure. And I'm sure you had some adjustments, David, but I would like to hope that there is more to life than physical activity, that and you can still be physically active, as I think we're going to see in some pictures here. And you have the biggest upper body I've seen in quite a while, David. So I think you're keeping it
Right?
active, right?
Yeah,
So
that's adaptation. Yeah,
yeah, that's high praise, Don, but I think it's misplaced a little bit. I think
well, no, it's funny because I don't mean to dismiss like David. We haven't spoken, and here you are with my friend Tom, and I don't, man, I don't mean to suggest. Again, I'm blessed to have a large group of friends, but I can only think of one that might have really tried to handle it the way that David did.
But I
And
didn't
yeah,
I didn't
so
try to handle it. It just
Yeah,
I
that's
I
that's
have
the
a couple of I don't know to you want to say title. I have two particular things that I really struggle with. I'm not a hero, and I really struggle when someone says that. And the other one I deal very poorly with is pity. Um, and
yeah.
there's all I wasn't living to do this as an example. All I was doing was going forward. It's like I mean, maybe it sounds like it was like this intentional, like, oh, I'm gonna take on this or what. And all I was doing living living the way God let me do it. Um,
There's an episode of The Chosen where one of the James he has a limp or something like that, and he says Jesus says, "Do you want me to heal you, James?" And he he decides no, and Jesus says to him, and this is not scriptural necessarily, but I think the principle is true. Jesus says to him, the reason you have this affliction is because God trusts you with it.
hmm,
And I think that's that's true of you, David. God has trusted you with this,
mhm,
and you're not you're not dealing with it. It's just who you are, and that's
yeah.
you've you've managed through it because of how God gifted you.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to kind of get across a little bit. Like, if you don't mind, like quick story, but
please.
um, there was a guy that, and I don't know what he was dealing with, but there was a guy about the time I had my accident that was dealing with serious life problems and stuff like that. And I guess his mom knew my mom, and if you know my mom, you can't like be around her for 10 minutes and she doesn't know your life story. So, um, somewhere in all this, she had told her friend like what was going on with me. And evidently, I found out like 10 years later, he had decided at that point, well, if he can deal with this, I can deal with what I'm dealing with. And like I said, I don't even know honestly what he was dealing with, but
Right.
that's when you know it's a God thing because I did not impact him. I've never met this person. I don't know their name. But God took my story and it wasn't because I was like, oh man, I will be an example to people on, how to that was not all I was trying to do was get through each day, get stronger, get my life back, or what at least what I thought I could get back. Um, I was just trying to move forward and God was letting me do that. And God took that story and stuck it into this guy's life through our mothers knowing each other.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And he says it saved him, you know. And that's when you know that God's playing the 3D chess where we're looking at the chessboard, because
Yeah.
he's moving parts around that we don't even get to see.
That's, a, that's such a great analogy. It's like 12D.
Yeah, it's not three. Three would be way too tame.
Yeah, that's amazing. Wow. This is going to be impactful, I think, for some people to watch. I'm excited for that.
No doubt. And you got some pictures here that,
And let's
well,
let's keep going through here. We call this section bragging rights. I think there's some cool pictures in here, David. Walk us through these. What are we looking at here? This is your
That
love of
that's
sailing. This is your
Yep,
Hobie cat.
that's my Hobie cat.
All right.
So that would have been summer of Brian looks like he is a year old maybe there. So
Okay.
I would think that that would be like summer of maybe 86.
86. Brian's your son.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And
And this
this
is the boat's beached and the ski boat's behind it. And that's looking out kind of a little bit to the left of Tapawingo. You can see the shoulder of Spec Mountain on the
oh, yeah.
left side.
Okay. Yeah. 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 Yep. That was helpful. Yep. Seeing it go up there on the left, I know. Okay. Perfect.
Yeah.
Wow.
love it.
So And that's Tapawingo is the darker area just in front of my forehead. And that's the sit ski.
Wow.
So Sitski, describe it to me because I can't quite tell in the picture. It's a slalom?
Yeah, it's a slalom. The if you bought a production one, they were like, oh, 10, 11, 12 inches up through 15 inches wide. And all adaptive equipment is expensive. So I just got like a slalom ski for like heavy people. So it was like 7 inches wide.
Okay.
And then I bent the tubing and just made my own cage to sit in. So there's a front bar and a back bar, and then the side bars come up this way, and you just sit in that. And then there's a single. I made it out of wetsuit material that you stick both feet just under a loop that's out in front of you.
Okay. And did you send us this picture because your biceps look like they're the size of my legs?
There was the thing that I'd miscalculated in the ski width is the spray is a huge. You don't realize when you stand on a slalom ski, your calves don't present a lot of drag, but there's a lot of drag on this thing, so it's like, oh man. But I couldn't even, and I couldn't buckle. If you notice, like the life jacket's not buckled. I couldn't fully buckle the life jacket.
Yeah, because your chest is too big.
Could have been that,
Could have
possibly.
been.
But yeah, and
Easy.
that was when I had hair too.
Another thing too, like when you teach skiers, when Tom and I were doing boats, and you try to teach skiers, you teach them act like you're sitting in a chair, and you feel like in the quads there's pressure. It happens for a little bit, but you were saying before, like the one part, two part, trying to, when you pressed your quads, you couldn't even feel them, and yet
Right.
you're trying, you're getting up on a skis that where it is so, you might be the only person on the planet that knows what that feels like.
Well, there's a few others. There's people crazier than me. So
It's not many.
the summer after I quit working for Xerox, I did this I kind of like a walkabout like sojourn, and I headed out of Virginia. Leanne was working my wife was working full time, so I headed out of Virginia, and there was a handicap water ski competition in Birmingham, Alabama, and there's guys that take these things off of a jump.
Okay.
So there are people crazier than me.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, you're the craziest person I know. So, all right.
That's a great picture. All right. What are we doing here?
So while I was still allowed to do this, later, I guess with their insurance and stuff, they put the kibosh on me doing this. The young lady is young lady named Cheryl that was guest services, and then the one with the giant wad of hair is my son
Oh, this
under
is
the
pretty
hat.
funny
Yeah.
then.
And so to get up and down to the dining hall, I would just hold on and she would drive.
Okay.
And they
Makes
wouldn't let
sense.
after a while they wouldn't let me do that anymore. After about like 8 years of doing it.
Oh,
So
Okay. So you're a youth pastor. So you would easily be able to take this picture and have some fun with it, right?
sure.
Okay, because I did.
Okay.
I decided to put thought bubbles or I tried to imagine what she was saying on the radio. This guy's bumper hitching. What do I do?
Go faster.
uh, my cart partner needs a haircut
He
badly.
does too.
that's
Scary
I did
scary
not
thing
know
is,
that was going to be your son. That's hilarious.
yeah. Scary thing is he's 40 now and the hair's longer.
Oh, that's
all
amazing.
right.
That's even. He just let it keep going. All right, where's the 10th hole again? I mean, she's really lost if she's looking for
Yep,
the hole.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
All right, now I've got some homework for both of you here. I left one blank because I want to see what you guys can come up with as what is she saying on the radio right now?
Oh, geez.
I was gonna say, can we not give him like a short rope?
Or a ski rope. Give him
Yeah,
a
right.
Yes.
ski rope.
I,
A 10, 15 foot rope. That might have, so
Yeah.
like right there, you're relying on your right arm,
yep.
which it looks like you could do, okay, but still you have to use your right arm to like keep
Also steer.
yourself from going, east and west.
A little bit.
Whereas if you were behind it with a ski rope and maybe 10 feet, you would just be like this. You wouldn't have to rely on just one arm.
Oh,
But
you must know me better than that by now, Don. If I'm behind it with a ski rope, I'm passing it back and forth, and
He's riding the wake.
yeah,
I
right.
I may have done that behind a pickup truck in my life.
Wow.
Yeah, or like, there's no weight behind this car. This is awesome. Like, don't mind me.
Yeah.
All right, David, you got to fill in the bubble once here.
Uh,
Oh,
I have to edit myself a little bit too.
That's amazing.
yeah.
How do I get rid of this guy?
Right. Yeah. It's funny to me, like, yeah, this, of course you would think of, doing this. Do you remember, speaking of the one of the things my parents told me about you, and it might have been you and your family, but I got the assumption that you were there. Um, my sister Tracy, who you mentioned before, you were at like the bottom of the dining hall hill, and she was
On a
coming
bike.
down on her bicycle,
Yep, that was my
and
dad.
your dad, okay, and she kind of lost control of how fast she was going, really couldn't stop. And then what do you
Yep.
remember about that?
I was actually, because when I would go down from the dining hall, I usually would go down the hill towards the office, because you and I didn't go down like with the golf cart. I just went down um in a wheelie. Okay, and that sounds like it's flashy, but it's not. If you are not in a wheelie, and the if you try to slow yourself down using your rear wheels, and you've transferred weight going steep down a steep hill onto your front wheels, your back wheels just have no control at all.
Uh,
So believe it or not, the advanced rehab center that I went to um, for the last 9 weeks, um, west of Charlottesville, I had like wheelchair class, and then had advanced wheelchair class. So you actually had to learn to do wheelies. They are functional. You can't if I was just to roll off of a curb without being in a wheelie, I would end up laying in the middle of the street because my front end would drop and I would just go over.
okay.
Okay. So going down from the dining hall, I would pop a wheelie, and I have gloves on, but you still build up a lot of heat. So I would always go down the office side, because then I could roll out towards um, I don't remember what number Xiphus it is, but like where the that Xiphus Lodge is behind the Purdy Center now.
Yeah.
I could like take a break there and then let my hands cool down and then do the second half. So where Tracy lost control was on the other hill that were down by the clinic. Is it
Yep. The infirmary there.
the
Yeah.
thanks. I couldn't think of the word infirmary.
Yeah.
By
Yeah.
the infirmary and the arts and crafts area before that got moved. And
Mhm.
so, but I mean, that side of the hill is much steeper,
Yeah.
and there are no breaks. And that was the side. So my mom and dad had walked down that side, and I'd gone, and then I would meet them at the bottom, um, coming from the office end.
Uh-huh.
But where Tracy lost control, and my dad just told me about it, where she lost control was going down towards the infirmary there, and he snagged her before she could like give up a lot of skin on road rash.
At the least. Yeah.
Yeah, because back then I doubt she had a helmet on.
Probably no.
No,
We didn't
didn't.
believe in those things.
No, they weren't a thing yet, really. For
Yep.
wow, oh my gosh, interesting. Yeah, so you came from, yeah, you do remember it, and it was something that they remember feeling like your family was in, of course, the right place at the right time, but more than that, that they were positioned there to to savor, you know,
Yeah,
divinely. Wow, that's interesting. Um, you
All
know,
right.
you've given us so much time here, Tom. I
Yeah, we'll finish up the pictures quick and then
yeah, yeah, do that. And I have a couple questions before we call it a night. But I am just, yeah, so good.
I'm gonna ask people watching the video to put in the comments what they would
that's a good idea.
I like
I
it.
think that, I
Yeah.
think it's funny. All right. I take it this is Brian and your wife
Yep.
a little
Uh,
later.
And at this point, they had put some ramps on some because in the early years we always stayed in Onondaga, the
Yeah.
second longhouse down from the teepee,
Orindaga?
Orondaga.
no, I
Yeah,
think it's on. I think it's Onondaga. Onondaga was a girls'
up
dorm.
on the hill, right?
I think Onondaga, I think is right. Well,
Yeah.
either way, yeah,
Yep. And I mean, nothing was so. I brought materials with us, and we built a ramp that would get me in the back door. And then we always managed to get reservations. I'm pretty sure your dad like watched over this, Don, to make sure but we always got reservations where like on the lakeside, like two units would share a porch.
yeah,
So if my mom and dad were on this side, like I could do the ramp into our place, but then I could like go back and forth and visit or, because you spend a lot of your week up there visiting family, just sitting and talking.
sure,
Um, but eventually they did change and actually put some ramps on buildings. So this is down in front of Iowa. So that's why you notice there's no wall here. This is still the section. I think it's still natural down there like that with the rocks and the trees and the blueberry bushes and stuff like that.
yeah.
Um, yep. So that's what this was.
All right.
And that's my mom and dad I think the lyre tree.
Oh, that's right. Right behind him is the, yeah, there you
The
go.
toes of the people up on the, yep,
Well, I found this picture in addition,
yeah,
same spot, right?
yep, same
Yeah.
spot. And the only two extra ones in there are my brother-in-law Chuck and my sister Donna.
Okay,
Um,
so it's your sister.
yep,
Okay.
He's, Dave, Dave, you're built like your
Yeah,
body is a like a defensive tackle in the end.
this this picture makes me embarrassed of my arms. I gotta be honest.
Man.
Yeah, let's move on. And then this is our last picture I have.
that was in Minneapolis. We had gone down to see. My son's a musician,
Oh,
and
All right.
one of the bands that he was traveling with was playing in a place called the Ice House, I think it was in Minneapolis, and we went down to watch him perform because we don't get to see him perform a lot anymore.
yeah, that would be fun to.
But he's a bass player, so he looks like a bass player.
A bass player. What are your musical interests in terms of like what was the first concert you ever saw? What was the best concert you
Oh,
ever saw? What
well, the first concert's a good camp story because like especially when you're in high school, you've got like to be in bed by 10:30 and
right?
stuff, and you could get an 11 per, and then I think the first summer I was on up there on staff, we I don't know how, probably because like your parents loved Joan and my sister, and so I was entrusted to them, and we got to go to my first concert in Saratoga Springs
Yeah, there you go.
and got to see Judy Collins and shoot Chuck Berry.
Wow.
So
Okay.
he did if you know the song My Ding-a-Ling, he did My Ding-a-Ling.
There you go.
So, but that was my very first concert with Saratoga Springs. And of course we had to get special because that was back in the days when midnight came, the gate was locked,
Oh yeah, that's right.
so you had to get special permission
Yeah,
to park outside the gate and then walk in from there.
yeah.
So,
That was your first. How about your favorite concert ever?
um, prob- I don't know where my wife is.
Oh, it's okay. Yeah, yeah, however you have to.
Oh,
You want to give me a call? Okay.
today's my wife's birthday.
Oh,
Yeah.
let's wrap it up here so you can.
Yeah,
You
that's a
got
good
an hour
one.
behind us, so yeah.
Yeah. Well, I made supper for her already.
Well,
So,
good for you. All right.
um, my favorite concert was probably when I was at ODU, um, the Beach Boys.
All right.
And this tells you how old I am. The opening act for the Beach Boys was Jimmy Buffett.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
He
okay.
was
That's a
he
lot of
was the
people.
opener.
Holy cow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a
that
lot
was hilarious.
of beachness there. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's great. So, yeah, Tom and I are we room together and we listen to a lot of music together, and still it's a common bond
Yes,
for us. So we love to hear other people's. Yeah.
Hmm.
their
But
interests.
it's so.
Well,
Uh,
I played guitar in praise band for like 20 some years.
wow.
Um, and then eventually, like if you know how guitars work, doing really tight stuff like a D chord and stuff like that got to be hard with the art because that is the one downside with the wheelchair is
Oh,
you're not meant to use these this way. And I have a lot of none of the bones in my wrists are attached to each other anymore.
jeez.
They've
Okay.
just been ripped apart basically. So when we moved up here in 2010, um, I decided to transition to bass. So I've been playing bass for the last 15 years.
Love it.
And I have my own private tutor, although he's in Richmond, Virginia, but I can always ask him my questions.
Wow. Love it.
That's
So,
all.
David, just to wrap it up, in trying to coordinate this conversation, Tom has his weekly schedule, but you have a we're able to do this on a Tuesday night to whatever people are going to watch it whenever, but because Wednesday nights you lead a youth group, right?
Yep, I
What's
spend my
what's what's
Wednesday
that about?
evenings with about 35 to 40 teenagers.
Wow.
That's awesome.
So what's that all about? Like,
Um, it's the name of our youth group is Detour. So what that is, essentially that's a like looking at um Satan tried to point humanity away from God,
Mhm.
and the cross said it's just a detour. Here's the way back. So the I don't know if I could have anything around here without having stuff on it. The D is just an arrow going like that. The E I usually have just three red stripes across going to the scripture. By his stripes we are healed. The T is the cross, and the last three letters of detour is our, and our only hope is in Christ. Um,
wow.
so I have seventh through 12th grade. Uh, I get there, I open doors at 4:30, so we're not directly across from the high school, but we're kind of kitty corner within a block of the high school. And I open up at 4:30. The kids can come over. I've got four 42-inch screens like on the walls, plus a projector on the biggest wall. And I just run Christian music videos. They can do homework, they can visit with friends, have a octoball court, although some people call it gaga ball. But have one of those out right now. It's outside. I have an inflatable one that we use in the winter, since we're 3 weeks from winter coming. I'm joking. Hopefully, I'm hoping I'm joking.
Hopefully you're joking.
Hoping you get a
Yeah.
little more. Yeah.
It was 78 degrees today, so
There
yeah,
you
we're
go. There you go.
you know. Um, but yeah, and then like a year ago, I started doing. By the time they get their driver's license and their car keys, they start voting with their car keys, and they find other things to do.
Mhm.
So it's really hard to hold on to your juniors and seniors. So they forget that just a hot minute ago they were as annoying as those seventh and eighth graders. They're, oh, geez, they drive me nuts, you know. So I started doing something last year, and I have 12 seniors this year that are still coming. And so when 8 o'clock is our program is done at 8 o'clock, and all the non-drivers get picked up by parents, I stay with juniors and seniors, And typically I end up rolling out of there about 10 or 10:30 or so. I'm home by 11 usually. Um,
Long
it's a
time.
good 8-hour run,
Mhm.
you know. A friend of mine that lives in Virginia said that I can't have a midlife crisis because I'm still working through adolescence. I'm more than sure that Don's parents would say amen to that. Um,
Yeah.
and I seem to have an extremely high tolerance for like noise and loudness, and it's like like herding kittens.
Hmm.
Uh, I kind of joke sometimes, like the words that put fear into me are, "Can we talk in your office?" Um, because if you work with youth, it's tough. These kids are these you know more things than you would ever want to know about what goes on in their lives. Who's afraid of their stepdad because he
Hmm.
doesn't he maybe doesn't smack him around, but
Hmm.
they feel threatened by him, or just yeah, I mean it's just there's always something like I've had kids that are like, I'm really upset because there's rumors going around school that I'm vaping and I'm not vaping, and I'm getting painted with that brush, and what do I do? And it's, social media is insane with these kids.
The
Yeah.
bullying, yeah.
And so that's, I know that when someone wants to talk one-on-one in the office, it's something serious. But I'm continually amazed that they pour their hearts out. Um, the church that we go to is a evangelical free church, and it's organized into we are part of the Northern Plains District, so it goes from us out across both of the Dakotas to the eastern part of Montana, and there's a guy that is tasked with from the district with it's a weird title. It's like the youth mobilizer, but he's like a coordinator he's a resource for guys like me. And I had said when I first started doing this, like, I don't understand why these teenagers glom onto me. And he's like, I'm not sure I can explain it, but he said what we're finding is that the teenagers at this stage seem to not trust their parents' generation, but they do trust your generation.
Hmm.
And he's like, if you find anybody with gray hair that wants to come help, and I haven't found anybody that's like me that can handle the noise and the insanity yet, but I'm just I'm continually humbled by what God is doing there.
Yeah. I know you're a humble guy, David, but I would say there could be some credence into they trust people from that generation, but I think there's a little more to it, and I think that your story is special, and you um, have come through it. You might argue with the terminology as we did before about, but there's no doubt in my mind that what you've not only endured but taken as, this is what you were dealt with in life, that God said this is how you're going to influence people. And I feel privileged that Tom and I have had a chance to uh, talk with you and share this, which we certainly will. um, and in a way that um, I know that so many others are going to be influenced by it. So
Thanks.
yeah, I I feel like we could talk forever, but I know it's also your wife's birthday, and we should. We've taken up a lot of your time, and I've been looking forward to this for a very very long time, and it's very gratifying. And again, I can't wait for others to hear it.
Mm.
This is
Well,
going to be
thanks.
awesome. Yeah, I appreciate your candid answers for us and opening up and sharing for that. And um, it was a great interview, great time. Really
Thanks.
appreciate getting to meet you.
Nice meeting you too.
Yeah.
All right, we'll stay in touch.
Yes.
Sounds good.
All right.
So, Tom, did Don ever tell you that one of the things that annoyed his mother was when we taught him to walk in with wraparound sunglasses and walk in and go, strong like bull?
Nope,
I
didn't
did.
hear that story. That,
I
that's
did.
amazing.
It's fun when you have a parakeet. You could teach them almost anything. It's like, and so like, you know, you're bored and it's like you
Strong like bull.
I,
Oh,
they didn't tell me that. I totally forgot.
well, it's also that second
Late
year,
sign off.
part of the boat staff was your uncle, Rich, too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have some fun with that, Don. I just took a note.
Sorry, Don.
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Yeah.
All right. I'm sure.
Well,
So good.
if you need anything else from me, feel free to holler.
All right.
Wednesdays pretty much the only Wednesdays and Sundays are the only times I'm tied up. So I'm fully retired now and
All right.
enjoying life.
That's
Yeah.
great, David.
So,
Really is.
Thanks so much.
All right.
thank you. Take
Appreciate
care.
it. Thanks. All
See you
right.
guys.
Bye.